The morning light in Seoul was a soft gold, spilling over the cobbled streets of Myeongdong as the city stirred to life. Outside, the air still carried the chill of spring, but inside Art House Cafe, a small, artful space tucked between two boutiques, it was warm, fragrant, and quiet. This was the place Chae Soo-bin had chosen to finally speak, after months of silence that had left fans and tabloids clamoring for answers. She arrived almost unnoticed, wearing a pale trench coat and a scarf pulled high around her neck. Yet, even in the simplicity of her entrance, she carried the elegance and vulnerability that had made her one of Korea's most beloved actresses. Her smile was polite, but not quite steady, and her eyes revealed that what she was about to say had weighed heavily on her. "Thank you," she murmured as she sat down at a corner table, fingers clasped around a steaming mug of Americano. Around us, the cafe hummed faintly with the sounds of other patrons, quiet conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, but her presence seemed to still the air. She didn't rush into it. Instead, she gazed through the window at the faint movement of passers-by, gathering her words like someone gathering broken pieces of glass. "I've stayed quiet because I thought it was better that way," she began. Her voice was low but clear. "But sometimes silence only lets others tell your story for you. And this is mine." The story began on a brighter day, years ago, under the blinding lights of Jamsil Sports Complex during a star-studded charity event. She was already gaining momentum in her career. He was a rising star in the world of professional baseball. Goo Ja-wook, charismatic, confident, with a smile that could light up the entire stadium, had noticed her even before she realized it. That night, amid camera flashes and the buzz of the crowd, he offered her a small smile from across the room. It was the kind of connection that felt immediate, effortless. Their first dates were quiet, private. They'd sneak away to a dog shelter and pachu, where they could just be themselves, walking side by side, playing with the animals, escaping the pressure of their respective worlds. At night, they would sit along the Han River in silence, watching the lights of the city ripple over the water. There was a sweetness in the way he'd hold her hand, in the way she'd lean her head on his shoulder, thinking they had all the time in the world. But fame has a way of turning even the sweetest love into something fragile. She was constantly moving between shoots, flying to Busan for a grueling filming schedule while he was training for championships in Daegu. At first, they promised they could handle the distance, but cracks began to form, cracks that no amount of love could fill. "I think we started speaking different languages," she admitted, eyes downcast, as though she could still feel the weight of those arguments. "We stopped hearing each other." The memory of their final fight seemed to hover between us. It was her birthday, and she was filming late into the night in Busan. He'd promised he'd come, but when she called him between scenes, his voice was distracted, almost impatient. "I can't," he said simply. "We have a big game." That night, she sat alone in her hotel room with a small cake that the staff had bought for her. There were no candles, no laughter, just silence and a message she couldn't stop rewriting in her head. In the end, she sent it, a long text that started with "I'm sorry" and ended with "goodbye." Afterward, she returned to Seoul but stayed out of sight. Paparazzi caught glimpses of her walking quietly along Gyeonggi at night, head lowered, her smile nowhere to be seen. Social media exploded with rumors. Fans argued over what had happened, who was at fault. Dispatch published speculative articles, each headline more invasive than the last. Some fans mourned the end of what they called a perfect couple, flooding her old posts with wistful comments. Others defended her fiercely. She deserves happiness too. Yet through it all, she said nothing, letting the storm rage without her voice. "It felt like being underwater," she whispered. "I couldn't breathe. I didn't know how to come up." And yet, even as one chapter was closing, another, quiet and unexpected, was already beginning. When she returned to work, it was on the set of When the Phone Rings, a drama that shot on location in some of Seoul's most beautiful corners, the quaint bookstores of Gyeongwamun, the bustling markets of Insadong, quiet side streets in Jongno. That was where she met Yoo Yeon-seok, someone she'd known by reputation but never really known. On this first day, He approached her shyly with a tray of coffee for the entire crew to keep everyone warm, said with a grin, handing her a cup last. She smiled back, but at the time thought little of it. But over the next weeks, something shifted. He noticed things when she shivered during outdoor shoots. He wordlessly handed her his jacket. When a scene was especially heavy, he would lighten the mood with a quiet joke, making her laugh when she least expected it. They began sharing lunch breaks in a small alley cafe behind the set. There, over bowls of kimchi jjigae and the warmth of the tiny space, he talked about Jeju sunsets, his clumsy cooking experiments, even childhood misadventures, stories that made her laugh so hard she forgot to be sad. At first, I thought he was just kind, she admitted, fingers twisting the edge of her scarf. But little by little, I realized he was teaching me how to smile again. Noticed before she did, photos leaked of them leaving a rap party at a Gangnam lounge, their footsteps just close enough to raise eyebrows. Then came the nearly identical pictures they posted days apart of the same golden retriever at the dog shelter and Pachu at the MBC Drama Awards. The way his hand shot out to steady her when she almost tripped on the stage's edge made headlines overnight. Online forums buzz with speculation. Something in the way they look at each other, one user wrote, like they already know. Back in the calm of our house cafe, she took a deep breath and smiled faintly. Never rushed me, she said. He never asked me to forget anything. He just stood there, quietly, waiting until I was ready. That moment came one cloudy afternoon at the shelter and Pachu, the same one she and Goo had once visited together. She'd invited Yoo Yeon-seok to volunteer. And as they knelt on the floor, playing with the sleepy retriever, she finally turned to him and whispered, "I like being here with you." He didn't answer immediately, just smiled and reached for her hand. When they finally went public, the response was immediate and fierce. Some accused her of moving on too fast, others defended her right to choose happiness. Goo Ja-wook posted a cryptic Instagram story, "Be happy. That's enough," sparking even more debate. Among the noise, there were also moments of quiet support, hashtags trending worldwide like #LoveWins, Chae Soo-bin Yoo Yeon-seok, and fans flooding her with messages of encouragement. At the Jeju Film Festival, where they both appeared for the first time as an official couple, they didn't pose together. But backstage, someone snapped a candid photo of them standing close, her hand tucked into his as the curtain fell. Asked if she regretted how it all happened, she shook her head firmly. "No," she said. "Because this time, I chose myself. And with him, I finally feel at home." As the interview wound down, the cafe around us had emptied. Outside, the neon signs of Myeongdong blinked to life, casting pink and blue shadows over the wet streets. She stood, smoothing her coat. For the first time that day, her smile was unguarded. On the doorstep, she paused and glanced back at the quiet little cafe, the place where she had finally told her truth, before stepping into the cool evening air. "This is my beginning," she murmured, almost to herself, before walking into the crowd. And somewhere between the glow of the street lamps and the hush of the night, she disappeared, no longer just a woman with a broken heart, but a woman who had chosen love, on her own terms, at last.